All right, and we are live.
Hi.
Oh my goodness. Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness. We've got a lot of people in here already. Now I see what you go through.
It's great to see everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Jeez, I see Johnny. Hi, Johnny. Oh, let me turn that off. And Raven, hi. Jilly, hi. Sandra, hi. Jen, hi. Another Jen and Jackie. Oh my
There's
goodness.
lots of friends.
Hi, everybody. I'm not used to this. My little channel doesn't get this kind of action. So, hi, Elle and Kimberly and Patsy and who am I missing? Bijam.
Bijam, yeah.
Hi, Dawn. Hi, Summer. Hi, Villain. All right, I think I got everybody for now.
It's always that fear of missing somebody out, isn't there, when you're going through all the names? Like, I hope I've got everybody.
That's the stress. I mean, it's seriously stressful because you don't want to leave anybody out, but it goes so fast. So I can only imagine. I can't imagine how bad it is on your channel. I've been on there where there's 100 and some people at one time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can only do your best. And I think on the whole, everybody understands because they're in the chat as well and they're seeing it going fast. And I know when I go into people's chats where it's moving really fast, you're trying to say hello to everybody as well. You know, there's that many kind of people interacting.
Yes.
You feel so. I'm sure everybody understands if they get missed that it's nothing intentional.
Yeah, we're just putting it out there right now. Hi Stephen, hi Chris, hi Becca, hi Aquarius Owl.
Oh, so many lovely people.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. So we're just going to get started.
Okay.
Why did you name your channel what you named it?
Oh, okay. So the Hermit's Cave wasn't always called the Hermit's Cave. So when I first started to make content, I was on with my own name at first. So I was in the tarot community for probably about 7 or 8 months as somebody, first of all, who was kind of lurking, leaving the odd comments on videos. I remember going to Kelly at the Truth in Stories Saturday night chat under my name. And then after about 7 or 8 months, when I decided to start making content, I came up with the name Two Spirit. And the reason why I chose Two Spirit at the time was because I class myself as somebody who walks two spiritual paths. So I call myself a pagan Buddhist. And that sort of dual spirituality, but also somebody who, you know, sees duality in all things. So, you know, with my sexuality, also in terms of, you know, I feel that there's a balance in terms of deity for representing female as well as male, and those energies. And I just, you know, everything has an opposite, you know. So Two Spirit seemed to fit. And I had that channel for about, well, it's the same channel, but I had that channel name for about 10, 11 months. And I'm, as part of my work, I'm an equality, diversity and inclusion trainer and have been for about 16 years. And I went on a refresher course, and the person who was doing the facilitating of this course gave a handout with a list of terms that could be deemed offensive. And right at the bottom on the last one was Two Spirit. And of course it caught my attention. And I hadn't been aware until that point. I knew that there was the words or the phrase Two Spirit had been used in some cultures, but I wasn't aware that actually it was offensive to use it outside of the Native American culture, because Two Spirit refers to people who are trans within the Native American culture. And I wasn't aware of that. So I had to, you know, address it and change the name of my channel. Now, I've always identified as a bit of a hermit. I'm at my happiest when I'm in my surroundings, at home, with my things around me. And I often, used to talk about taking hermit permits and, that sort of thing, and just shut the world out for periods of time and just do study or meditate. So I wanted to bring hermit into my channel. And, I often used to refer to this as my cave. So the hermit's cave just sounded, it encompassed what I was about, really. And it just seemed to fit. And ironically, the moment I did that and I made a video explaining, my faux pas about having this channel in this name that could be offensive, I got lots of comments from people who were saying things like, really glad you've changed your name, because it always bothered me. But nobody had said to me, do you realize you're using a channel name that could be deemed offensive? And of course, like everything, when we know better, we do better. And so, I couldn't continue with that name, even though I thought it was quite a cool name. I quite liked it for representing who I felt I was. But then in context with where the origin of that name comes from, it didn't align. So that's why I changed it to the Hermit's Cave. And it just feels like I invite people into my cave, where I dwell, for however many minutes at a time that I do videos for, or lives. So yeah, that's why I came up with the name.
That's excellent. I love that, inviting people into your cave. I love that.
It is, because, with this 26 people here at the moment, and we see them chatting away, and I've always said, and many times, they're here, they're taking part, they're listening to what we're saying, and it's almost like they're here with you in the room. We can't hear them with our physical ears, but when you read the chat and the interactions, it's almost like you're in a room full of people. And then when it's time to say goodbye and you go, there's that deafening silence. Even though you've only heard your own voice for the last half an hour, 45 minutes, or however, there really is that sense of, I'm back to being on my own again,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a strange feeling, I think, when you do lives, because you can't hear anybody or see anybody, but you've got a sense of them being here and around you.
You can feel their energy,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hi, Tangi. Hi, Lavender. And Lady Knight, Maria. Hi, honey. Adam. Hi.
Hi, Adam.
I know I've seen a couple other people too. Hi, Trish. All right. So the next question was, how would you label your spiritual path? Which you kind of just told us, but would you label it more? Has it changed at all? Or
I think my spiritual path is always evolving. Yes, I class myself as a pagan Buddhist, but at times certain elements of my spiritual practice takes precedence over others. So when it's a Sabbat, I feel very pagan, but when I wake up in the morning and I sit and I meditate, I feel quite Buddhist. So I think because I studied Buddhism, it's coming up to 17 years now since I became a Buddhist, a Nichiren Buddhist. I don't attend any groups or meetings anymore. I'm solitary in my Buddhist practice, and I like it that way. Again, it fits in with that whole sort of hermit thing. I'm better doing solitary practice, but I've got such a connection with Mother Earth, with nature. I feel alive, when I'm walking amongst trees, by the ocean, against a brook or a river, sitting on the side of a hill, just looking out over an expanse. It's like I come alive, and I've got this burst of energy within me that swells up, and I feel really grounded and connected. So I feel very pagan in as much as, you know, I do honor the Sabbats. I love the solstices. I revere Gaia as a deity. But in terms of my meditation and chanting, I believe that we've all, every single one of us, has a Buddha nature. So a Buddhahood that we can reveal. Buddha isn't anybody to worship, you know. Buddha is not a god. Buddha is an enlightened being. And we've all got that potential. We've all got that inside us that if we meditate or we chant, we can tap into, and we can bring it to the surface. And so if I've got any big decisions to make, or any you know, if I'm faced with a dilemma or any sort of decision, then I will always try, particularly through chanting Nammyoho Renge Kyo, is to tap into that Buddha nature and then bring that to the surface, because that life state that I can find myself in, I'm likely to make better decisions, better choices, choose my words more carefully than what I would do if I'm just, you know, just reacting to things without pressing that pause button and going within. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but pagan Buddhist, but at times, and depending on the situation, I might feel more pagan than Buddhist, or more Buddhist than pagan. So
now I have heard that chant before. What does that mean?
So Nammyoho Renge Kyo, you might have heard it because there's been a few famous Nichiren Buddhists. Tina Turner. Yeah. And the first time I ever heard Nammyoho Renge Kyo was in 1994 when I went to the cinema to see Tina, What's Love Got to Do with It, the film, her autobiopic film, which is fantastic actually. And it's her life story. And she found Buddhism in the 1970s in the US. And it transformed her life to the point where she went from being in an abusive relationship, who was always in the shadows of Ike Turner, to somebody who found her own strength to A, fight back and defend herself, B, to move out of that home and that toxic situation, and then C, to become one of the greatest recording solo artists of our time. And she attributes everything to the fact that she found Nichiren Buddhism. So Nammyoho Renge Kyo basically means, Nam is devotion, Renge Kyo, Nammyoho Renge Kyo. Myoho is like the duality, the seen and unseen. Myoho, it's everything having an opposite. Kyo right at the end is the sutra. It's referring to the sutra. So and the Myoho Renge is the mystic law of the universe. So when you say Nammyoho Renge Kyo, you're saying I devote my life to the mystic law of the universe. And that basically means that everything you do, you are putting yourself in rhythm with the ebb and flow of the universe. So Buddhism doesn't, particularly Nichiren Buddhism.
I'm sorry.
I love that. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I named that tune in 5. Yeah, so Buddhism, particularly, I can't speak for all schools of Buddhism, but Nichiren Buddhism doesn't acknowledge a supreme being of any sort. It's very much humanistic, and it's about living your life by cause and effect. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you want good causes, if you want good effects, then you have to put out good causes. And when you chant Nammyoho Renge Kyo, you are tapping into your Buddha nature, as I mentioned, but also you're putting your life back in rhythm with the universe. And it sounds, when somebody chants Nammyoho Renge Kyo at speed, it creates this beautiful sound, almost like a chord being played. And when I went to get my Gohonzon, which is a scroll that's given to you when you become a Nichiren Buddhist, back in 2004, I sat there with I think it was around 300 people chanting in a room, Nammyoho Renge Kyo, and it's electric. It's so beautiful.
I was going to say, that's got to be powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. That's really cool. That's beautiful. I mean, seriously beautiful. So were you raised in the path that you are on now, or did you veer off?
Oh, I veered off. So my background is Mormon. I did an interview on Saturday actually with Will from Atypical Tarot, and I only just realized as I was chatting to him that we'd got similar paths. He was Mormon too. At the moment, all my family are now less active within the Mormon church. My parents still class themselves as Mormons. They will still, pray. They'll still read from the scriptures. They will still, kind of follow a lot of the tenets of that faith, but they're not active church members anymore. My sister left a few years after I did, but yeah, it was a huge part of my life that took quite a lot to get past, to move beyond, because when I came out of that faith, as anybody who's spent any amount of time in the Mormon faith comes out, there is a massive void to fill, because it's such a huge part of your life. 3.5 hours on a Sunday in church, Monday night is family home evening, Tuesday night is priesthood meetings. There's something happening, with the exception of Saturdays. There's always something happening, and it becomes your whole world, your whole life. And there's a lot of fear attached to that faith, because if you leave, which I did, according to the Mormon faith, then you are cut off for all time and eternity with your family, because in the temples they seal families together forever, as long as you are good Mormons, and if you come out of that, then you suffer what they call spiritual death, because you've denied the Holy Spirit, the truth, and therefore your soul is deemed to what's called outer darkness for all eternity. So it's a huge, huge life-changing decision when you leave that faith, because you're not just walking away for the next however many years you're on earth. You're saying, but I'm now at the position where I don't believe that. I don't believe that and you have to keep saying your testimony once every 4 weeks on a stand. I believe this is the one true church. I believe Joseph Smith is a prophet of God. I believe, and you have to say your testimony. So to then come to a position where you are where I am now, and you just think that was complete and utter brainwashing, is massive. And I still worry, and I still worry about my family, and particularly my parents. But yeah, they're as happy as they can be in that belief system, but we just have to agree now that I live my life and they live theirs. And it was difficult when I first came out, and I did go through a complete breakdown. I was hospitalized. I couldn't work for 3 years. I didn't leave the house for 3 years. My windows were closed with curtains closed. I couldn't answer the phone. It was just a living hell, to the point where I made an attempt on my life. And then they came to the hospital and they just saw the situation I was in, and it was at that point I just thought, any mother, would probably feel the same, just to think, well, actually, I don't want any child of mine to suffer like this. So we got on a okay situation, and there's a tolerance now, and that's as much as I can hope for. They'll never understand this, but they don't say anything. I might get the odd looks, and the day my mum brought me a crystal as a present was huge, because I never thought that would happen, and that was a massive turning point about 8 years ago when she bought me this crystal. And she just said, I'll never really understand it, but if it's what you want, I'm happy to buy it for you, you know? And that's kind of how we are. I go over once a month. We have Sunday dinner together. They'll bless the food. I sit respectfully and listen to them do that. And our bond and our love is greater than that sort of them not being able to understand. And in the same way, I just feel, you know, they're in a place where I was. So how can I judge?
I mean, it sounds like a cult to me. I mean, and doesn't it sound very similar to like Scientologists when they're trying to come out of it? Or
no, I was talking to Will on Saturday in our interview, and I've always said, you know, there is no aftercare. You know, this is a global institution that's in almost every country and territory of the world, but there is so much support while you're in that religion, so much support but when you come out, and this is why the Five of Pentacles card really, you know, the first time I got an RWS deck, I'd had a Marseille deck years ago. The first time I got an RWS deck in 2008 and saw the Five of Pentacles, I was like, this is me. This is me in the tarot, you know. I'm on the outside. I feel like I'm battered and bruised, and there's something happening inside this religious building here where it's all warm and glowy for everybody else, and I'm lost in this kind of wilderness with a hole in the soul because I'm a spiritual person. So yeah, there's no aftercare at all. It's once you're out and you're cut off, you know. So
that's just heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
It really shows me why this kind of community is so friggin' important. You know, having people that you can share those experiences with, and maybe have had their own instances like that. So,
and I often talk about it because there are people. Heidi did what I mentioned her on Saturday. She's a member of the witchy community. She's a tarot community as well. You know, she found a video just randomly, me talking about leaving Mormonism, and she was just coming out of the Mormon church, and she did a video about it. And those connections. Becca from Becca Talks in Tarot wasn't a Mormon, but she was in a very strict, very similar Christian background. She heard me speaking about it and private messaged me, you know, and said, I've had such a similar experience to you, and it's wonderful to know that there are other people out there. And you're right, that's you know, what's great about the community is we find people who have been through very similar experiences, and then we can share our experiences and help to lift each other up.
Yeah, that's very traumatic. My cat is like ripping down on stuff right now. Well, you kind of already answered that, so I'm just going to go on to the next one. Do you feel a stronger connection with certain element or a couple of different elements?
Yes. And it's really strange because I don't know anything about astrology. It's one of those areas that, you know, I'm always going to look into and never do. But somebody did do a chart for me a couple of years ago, and there was no water in my chart. And that really surprised me because I love water. You know, I love to see the cups in the tarot. I love to be by the sea, the sound of the ocean, just being by the ocean. I just love being by water. So I was, my sun sign, my star sign, however you want to call it, is an air sign. But I just thought, well, there's going to be some water in there, and there isn't anywhere. But in terms of element, which element I like to kind of be around and work with, it's definitely water. I feel a strong connection with the element of water, for sure.
Maybe because it's lacking in your chart. You're more trying to bring more balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of fire and there's lots of air, but very little water. Well, no water, actually.
Do you have a favorite season of the year?
I do. I do. And when I get towards October time, I always say, oh, I love autumn, as you guys call it, the fall. I love autumn because it's my favorite time of the year. I love to see the leaves falling. I love the oranges, and I just love it. And that sort of crisp air coming at the onset of winter. But then as soon as because I really don't like January and February, I struggle to get through January and February every year. So when spring comes, I'm like, oh, I love spring. Spring's my favorite.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere between spring and autumn. I like that sort of the change that you get from a harsh winter into buds coming out, fresh smells, new sunshine, without it being sticky and clammy and everything like that. But then when we've had enough of summer and we get towards autumn, then I like that as well. So if you ask me that, you're asking me in spring, so it's spring. But if you ask me that in September, October time, it'll be autumn.
Right on. Yeah. So I know this is a silly question. Do you use divination? And if so, what types do you use?
Yes. So my preferred system of divination is tarot. I've always been fascinated and intrigued by the tarot as way back as I can remember. And I think, again, that was because I was told that it was something that I shouldn't, concern myself with. Watching James Bond as a child of about 9 and seeing, what was her name? I forgot her name now, but...
Jane Seymour?
Jane Seymour. I was going to say, she played Dr. Queen, Medicine Woman. Yeah, Jane Seymour as Solitaire, turning those tarot, and me saying, what are they? And of course, that sort of reaction, And then there was a program called Tales of the Unexpected that we had. It was a Roald Dahl series, and the opening sequence would show this carousel of tarot cards going around, and they were the 1JJ Swiss tarot cards, which was my first deck. And then buying a deck in 1987 as a 16-year-old and kind of keeping it to myself that I'd got it. My sister was a bit of a rebel as well, so I used to do readings for her and we'd play around with them and stuff. And I never know really what happened to that deck. And then when I left the church, I was all about soul cards, Deborah Croft Chapin's soul cards 1 and 2. And I worked with them for years until I got my Rider-Waite-Smith. So I love the tarot. I don't know how it works, but it works, and I trust it. I really do trust it as a system. I'm okay with Oracle. I'm less drawn to Oracle decks now. I've got a few staples that I will grab for that are around me here, but I've let go of so many Oracle decks over the last year or so. But I love to explore all forms of divination. I've been studying domino divination. I like runes. I love Ogham. I'm really into Ogham staves. Dice divination, playing card divination, you name it. If it's got divination associated with it, I like to read up on it. I might not be proficient in it, and I might need books to study, but it just fascinates me. It fascinates me how certain, even things that we might consider to be quite inanimate, can be used for divination purposes. And we've done it since the beginning of time. We've always looked up even at the clouds and divined with the patterns in the clouds, and or patterns that have been formed by the sea on the beaches. So it's really fascinating to me. But my favorite form is tarot, and I think I will always be a cartomancer first and foremost, but I like to dabble, and I like to explore other forms too.
I can remember a time, and I've said this before on my channel, sitting down on the toilet and looking at the floor tiles and trying to divide stuff in the floor tiles. How many people have done that?
Yeah, I think we all have.
Yes.
And wallpaper patterns, I can remember as a kid, and I know, as a child is forming and the brain is forming, the brain likes to try and make order out of chaos. So if you see a pattern that doesn't make sense, the brain tries to put some sort of order to it. And that's how we recognize faces in a crowd instantly. But I remember as a child, and I talked about this in a video I did a few years ago now, which was called My Path to Tarot, was I remember as a kid having this wallpaper in the room that I had until I was about 6, and seeing faces, and with my childhood imagination, these faces would talk to me, and I'd have all sorts of amazing conversations with these characters that were in the wallpaper. And yeah, I think we've always done that, haven't we, as a species, really?
Mm-hmm.
We'd like
everything.
Yeah, we like to. The unknown has always provided us with that sense of curiosity because it's unknown. So we always try and find solutions to things, and we always like to try and think, well, okay, something can't be that unknown. There must be a way to try and find out what's beyond, or what's there, or what's coming. We've got memories of what's gone before. We know what's happening now in the present. So why is everything from beyond this point, unknown to us? There's got to be a way we can tap into it.
Exactly. I think that's funny. Tangi said, I do that daily. Floor tiles speak to me. Yeah, that's funny. So you said you're an air sign. What is your sun sign?
I'm a Libra.
A Libra. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you know what your other ones are? Do you know what your rising sign is and like your moon sign?
I wrote it down once because I kept forgetting. I should have really dug it out. I know there's Aries. I think it's Cancer rising, and then there's an Aries, but I'm hopeless when it comes to astrology. Really should get a book and look into it.
So much to learn with astrology. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So do you know what your tarot birth cards are?
Yeah. So this is what we call the life path card, isn't it? Where, you work out. So I'm the Lovers. That's and I can remember doing the equation and getting the Lovers and just kind of thinking, oh, it's the Lovers, I wanted it to be something like the Hermit, of course, but I've really got a better and deeper understanding of the Lovers card now. And so I'm okay with it. I can see a lot of it is to do with the relationship with myself, I think, having gone through certain experiences in my life and never feeling, particularly right up until the last 10 years or so, never really feeling that I belonged anywhere. And, that sort of always feeling as an outsider, never really fitting in, trying to conform to different things that other people wanted me to be. I realized that the Lovers, for me, as my life path lesson, is just to, build that relationship with myself first, and get to a point where I'm happy with who I am, with, warts and all and everything that comes with me, getting to that point where I can say, okay, well, I'm okay with this, Yeah. So the Lovers card has actually taught me quite a lot, even though that first initial reaction was, oh, the Lovers. Why that card of all cards? But
yeah. Well, according to the kind that I use, and I know there's different ways of calculating, you would also, it would be the Devil for you as well. The Devil and the Lovers. Because,
yes, exactly. Yeah. And I love,
which makes sense with what you just said.
Yeah, and I love the balance of those two cards, the Lovers and the Devil, and how quickly one can become the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a life path 6 then?
Yeah.
And do you know anything about that in general?
Not really, other than the videos that I've watched, and I've read little bits about it, but I think I know enough to kind of have that as sort of a guide, as something to constantly keep at the back of my mind and work with. But it's never really been that important to me as such. I just think, you know, I don't know. I've just used it to heal more than anything, and it's been important for that. But other than that,
Okay. Do you know what your significator card in the tarot is?
again, it depends how you. Because the traditional way of significator cards, a lot of people think, well, if you're male, it'll be the magician. Female, it's the high priestess. But for me, if I'm using a significator card within a tarot in the same way that somebody might use in a Lenormand, then I would select the Page of Cups, because to me, within the court cards, I feel the most connection with the Page of Cups. And sometimes that's surprising to people because the pages are usually very young, very inexperienced. But again, for me, it's about archetypes, it's about energy. And, you know, age is irrelevant, really, when we're talking about the immortal soul. So I do feel, and lots of people, when they talk about courts in particular, they'll go with kings and queens. You know, I'm the queen of this, or I'm the king. I hear that so many times. And I'm really happy and comfortable in saying that I identify most with the Page of Cups. So if I'm using a significator, if this is the sense of how you mean, you know, in terms of significator cards, then
Yeah.
I will select usually the Page of Cups and lay the Page of Cups down and read around the Page of Cups.
I think that's good because I mean, I love the Fool. The Fool is all about experiencing, right? And still learning and growing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I see the pages like that also, being in a state of always wanting to learn more.
Yeah.
So I think that's beautiful.
Almost like having a clean sheet, isn't it? So that, you know, your soul is a clean tablet that can be still worked on and still written on. You know, I've always remember reading something years ago that said, you know, you can erect buildings and monuments, but over time, the weather will start to, you know, degrade it. It will start to crumble away. It'll become ruins. You can write books and everything else, but in time, the pages will turn to dust. But if you work on your immortal soul, then you are working on something that can never be destroyed. And I always think about that. You know, it's great that we can leave lasting legacies if we can, you know, whether that's books or videos or pieces of art, fantastic. But the primary thing that we should always be working on is our immortal souls, because I believe that can never be, you know, weathered or rusted or turned to dust. So.
Right on. Absolutely. So do you have a current favorite deck? And I know this is not easy, but do you have like one, or if you had to, maybe three that are your favorites?
My goodness. Favorite decks. Oh, so many to choose. I've got lots of decks here. I'm really enjoying the CS Tarot at the moment. This is the jumbo version that I'm working with. I'm really enjoying Carol Hertzer decks. I've got Starlight and Illuminated. But there's just so many.
I know.
I love Lightseers. I love This Might Hurt. I'm really enjoying plain old Rider-Waite-Smith. And I've got many different iterations of that. The latest ones are the Neo Riders. I love Anna Kay, Druidcraft. There's so many that, and it's always, I find that's always the hardest question to answer. And it's one of the most popular tags that is out there in YouTube world is, you know, if your house is on fire, which deck would you grab, or what's your top 5? And mine constantly change. My one deck, which is my soul deck, which is just the RWS, I think will always be my favorite. It's, for me, it's the original and best. And when I say original, I am aware, of course, it wasn't the first tarot deck, but in terms of a fully illustrated tarot deck. But everything else, if I was to have a top 10, they're gonna change, because this time last year I didn't have the light seers in my hand, you know. So, and the connection I have with that is wonderful. And there's always decks that are coming and decks still to be created. But yeah.
That is an extremely difficult question. I mean, you ask somebody, you know, explain your spiritual path. No problem. Now, what's your favorite deck? That's a problem. That's funny.
It is. And we have different decks for different situations, or at least I do, you know. And I will sit here, and the question I get asked the most, Rachele, is how can you possibly work with all those decks? Well, you know, if somebody has a library in the home, we wouldn't walk in and say, how can you possibly read all these books, you know, or
Exactly.
a DVD shelf? How can you watch all these films? You choose a book, you choose a film, you choose a deck, depending on your mood, what speaks to you, what situation you want to, you know, consult the tarot about. It's a library of decks to choose from, you know. And yes, there are going to be decks that I've forgotten about or not worked with for a great amount of time, but that's why I do things like Throwback Thursday, because I want to pull out some old favorites and give them a bit of love again and a bit of attention. But yeah, it's the question I get asked the most by so many times. I post a video and somebody will say, love your deck collection, how many have you got, or how can you work with them all? But
That's one of the questions coming up.
oh, okay.
You know, inquiring minds want to know, right? Let's see. What are you currently working with? The ones that you just talked about that are like on your desk right there with you?
So on my desk currently, I've got the CS Tarot, which is the Jumbo CS Tarot here. For my Marseille, I'm currently working with the Lily Stone Marseille. I love that. And I'm also working with the Carol Hertzer decks as well. And with Oracle decks, I'm switching between three. I'm working with the Raincoast Oracle, Roots and Wings Oracle, and the Anatorian one. It's just gone right out my mind, the title of it, Oracle of Echoes. So those three in particular I've been working with, and those decks.
Okay. Would you consider yourself a collector? And if so, how many decks do you have? And this can be Oracle and Tarot. It's just the whole kit and caboodle.
Okay. I've always kind of said, oh, I'm not a collector. But I don't think I can get away with saying that with the amount of decks I've got. But I'm not a collector where I've got to have every deck that's released, because there are some decks that I will look at and just think instantly, no, that's not for me. And I just know by looking at it, I think that's not for me. Sometimes I might think, I'm not quite sure. So I'll watch one or two walkthrough videos. And that's how I found the community, by watching walkthrough videos. Just because I went into a bookshop and saw a deck that I wasn't sure of. And I thought, I wonder if anybody's put anything on YouTube, not knowing there's a whole community here. But so I don't need to have every deck. Whereas I think a collector might. They might think, oh, that's quite rare. Or so I need that as part of my collection. Or, oh, that could go out of print. You know, so collectors will often buy for the value as well, or the perceived increased value further down the line. I'm not like that. I will only bring a deck into my collection that I know I'll work with, and I have no issues at all letting decks go if I get to the point where I think I've outgrown this deck, or I'm never going to work with this again. So I'll pass it on. I'll either trade, I'll do giveaways. We've had a few tarot meetups, and we've taken, I took about 20 something decks last year, you know, and people can just pick and choose, and because I'd rather them be used. In terms of the number, I should really check my library.
You know.
I do catalogue using Libib. So here we go.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's just loaded. So it's not as, I don't think it's as high as people actually think. So I have 75 Oracle decks and 441 tarot decks. So just over 500 decks. What I don't catalogue is my Lenormand or fortune telling cards or playing cards that can be used for divination. But in terms of just tarot and oracle, then that's what 520 maybe. So, and I've been around the 500 mark for about.
Just saying. You know, like, that's really cool.
Yeah, but it does seem to have been around there a long time, because I've recently been letting some go as quickly as coming in. I've been doing a lot of trades at the moment as well. If I really want a deck, because of what's been happening with COVID and shipping taking so long and things like that, and here in the UK, if we buy a deck from the States, it doubles, because the shipping and then the customs that we have to pay on it. A £40 deck would cost us £80. So we have to think about that if Beth isn't getting it in at Little Red Tarot. Luckily, I've got friends who will buy for me and send, but it's a factor. So a lot of the times now I've been doing trades, so the number doesn't really go up as much recently.
That is such a wonderful number. I mean, I'm very envious of that number.
How many do you have?
I think I have like 60 now total.
Okay.
So, but that's not too bad. I mean, it's been not even a couple of years for me. So,
yeah,
I mean,
good.
I've been doing it for like 30 years, right? Reading tarot for like 30 years.
Yeah, it was 33 years ago I started reading tarot, but this collection has only happened in the last four and a bit years.
Yeah, that's excellent. I don't see personally, and I've said this before, and I know that there is a bad stigma for some people to think that somebody has a collection like that. To me, I say people collect any number of things. What difference does it make what somebody decides to spend their money on? It's their money, right?
Exactly.
If they enjoy it. And you never know, even if it's something that you're not working with right now, you might be going through something and then you see that deck and it just calls out to you, you know, even if you haven't worked with it in a couple of years. So
yeah,
I say it's wonderful. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I hope to one day have that many decks.
You will, I'm sure. Stick around YouTube.
Oh yes, so many enablers, and you are definitely among that. No doubt about it. So would you say that your reading style has changed over the years?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I remember when I first got the tarot, you got a pull out of the Celtic Cross with the one JJ Swiss, and I thought that was the only way you could read the tarot was by this Celtic Cross. And then I went from not using the paper and memorizing all the positions, and of course only work it. I used to, when I first started, I used to take the minors out because I didn't know what these patterns meant, and working with the majors. And then of course when I got RWS and I could see, I used to read purely intuitively because I'd had 7 years of just working with soul cards, and soul cards are just images without words and numbers or book. You just look at them and you feel the images and you say what you see, a bit like patterns in the wallpaper and things like that. So when I got my first RWS, I was reading them like stories, you know. And then I bought the first book I ever bought. It's a bit battered now. Was the Tarot Bible, and realised, oh, actually, I've done okay. You know, I looked at them and I thought, and you can with something like the RWS. You know, you look at something like Five of Wands for the first thing that comes into mind, and you see those kind of battle scenes, and you can you can work out the energy of the card anyway, because that's what it's there to depict. So I thought, well, actually, this isn't too bad. And then I set myself the task of using the book with little prompts and things like that, with my own intuition. So then it went kind of from purely reading intuitively to having the underpinning knowledge and layering my intuition on top, to then 18 months ago becoming a professional tarot reader, and really having to kind of up my game for that, because this wasn't now just me and my sister having a bit of fun, or me just having a look at my what today might bring, what to look out for, doing my evening spread and looking at the you know, how has today gone, what lessons can I take forward to tomorrow, to actually answering some pretty huge dilemmas that people were facing, you know, or some big things coming in their life, and they were turning to me as somebody to, not for me to provide the answers, but being that conduit, that tool to lay out cards and say, this is what I see in the cards, you know, and passing on that knowledge to them. And that, you know, through that reading, suddenly my reading style changed dramatically, in terms of those ones that I would do with my friends and my family. They noticed almost instantly that when they were saying, oh, because you're probably the same, you get invited to somebody, you know, my sister will say, oh, come on over, why don't you come and have your tea with us? I'll say, yeah, I'll come. Oh, will you bring your cards? You know, it's added on. You're like, yes, okay, I'll bring my cards. But they notice, you know, wow, you're going a lot more in depth than perhaps what you used to. So I think it does happen, obviously, with anything. The more you practice, the more you study, then the more fine-tuned your readings become. I still see tarot as well sometimes as fun. I think you can have fun with the tarot, but it's about having respect for it too. You know, there are those times where again, depending on the person and what you're doing, you know, it's lovely that you can have a wine evening and get the cards out and have a bit of fun, and let's have a look at some stuff, you know. But also you have to have respect for it, because it's, in my opinion, you know, it's a spiritual tool, it's a sacred tool, it's got history, and you know, it's not to be scoffed at. So I think that is something I'm always mindful of as well. But yeah, I think my reading style changed the most dramatically when I became a professional reader, because it had to.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is not something that I normally ask, but do you have like a favorite spread that you do, that you like doing, or a favorite way of reading the cards?
I like 9-card spreads, and there's different variations to that. That said, for myself, I will do 3 cards, which is looking at my day. And I always look at my day as morning, midday, and evening. So when I lay my 3 out, but when I do my evening 3 spreads, it's looking back across the day. So I have my intention setting in the morning and my reflection in the evening. But when I'm doing reading for others, I like to do 9 cards. So I have the current situation in the middle, and then I have the light and the shadow. The 3 above is the light, which results in the ultimate outcome. But then the 3 below the current situation, I tend to, and I say shadow, not everybody that I'll read for would understand that, you know, like that we perhaps do in the community. So I'll just say, these are something that's below the surface that you might want to pay attention to, for you to be able to get the end result that could potentially come, depending on whether you take the advice from the cards or not. So I tend to, when I'm doing general readings, it'll be 9 cards, looking at the current situation, what's below the surface, and then the light, which leads to the outcome.
Wonderful. I like that. Do you have any daily rituals that you do?
Only in as much as, well, I suppose the answer is yes, because I do my cards every morning, and in the evening. I also like to do some mindfulness meditation, however you want to call it, to start my day off. I have got a little bit lazy of late in the evenings since I've been physically going back to work. I've been getting tired again in the evening. So more times than not, I haven't been doing any sort of meditation practice in the evening. But then there's things I'll do at certain times as well. So it's not necessarily daily rituals, but I have my sacred space, which has Gaia on it, and it has the wheel of the year. So at certain times I've got a goddess for each of the Sabbats. So I'll change it up. I will light candles. I will do ritual around each of the Sabbats. And then because I'm a pagan Buddhist, if people that see my front room, I've got my pagan altar there and my Buddhist shrine there. You know, and I sit in front of my Buddhist shrine and I'll do meditation, mindfulness. In the bedroom, I have where I do my chanting, Nammyoho Renge Kyo, so I have my cons on enshrined. That's usually a daily practice as well. Finding some time, even if it's just a few minutes, just to do some chanting, just to make sure that I'm keeping those energy levels in the right place, you know, and connecting with my Buddha nature each day. Because I realize when I haven't done it, it's like batteries draining, you know. It's important to keep your mind as decluttered as possible, but it's also it's good for me to make sure that my energy levels are up, and when I chant, I feel like I'm, you know, recharging my batteries.
Yeah, very cool. Do you remember your dreams, or do you do any kind of dream work?
I only remember the dreams if I wake up straight from them. And it's funny you've asked that today, because I did have a dream this morning. I overlaid this morning. I was talking to someone and I said, I can't believe I've overlaid. But I did. I woke up the alarm went off and I pressed what I thought was the snooze. I thought I'll have an extra 9 minutes, and I must have switched it off. And I went into a dream, which, you know, those dreams that seem to go on forever, but they probably don't. And I woke up from it with a start thinking I've overslept, and I had. But then as I was jumping in the shower, I was thinking about this dream that I was having. And I was thinking, well, that's really, really bizarre, you know, because I never really remember my dreams. And then you start to think, don't you, I wonder what that's about. Why would I have that dream? And yeah, so I haven't done a lot of, you know, I don't own a dream dictionary or anything like that. I do have some cards that I bought a few months ago, which I think they're called Dream Decoder. And but I don't really use it like for divination, because you pull a card and it will say this is about the dream about flying, or this is a dream about exams. So I can't use it like that. But if I have a particular dream that I remember because I've usually woken up from it, then I'll find that card and flip it over to have a look at the back and see what it might be an indication of. But you reminded me, because I haven't done that today, about the dream I woke up from this morning, which was really bizarre. It was me being told off for wanting to swim in the local canal. And our canals are really dirty and horrible, but I was there taking my clothes off, about to get in the canal, and this person came up and said, you can't swim in this canal. And I was like, but I want to swim. I want to swim in this canal. Bizarre.
Wow. See, I find for me, when it comes to dreaming, because I have to get up quite a few times in the middle of the night in order to use the restroom. So if I'm like in between, like, you know, like 4 a.m., because that's like usually the first time. So, and then I might wake up at 6, maybe the dog wakes me up, whatever, because he sleeps with us. So if it's a short period of time, that's when I remember my dreams.
Yeah.
If I just sleep all the way through, I don't remember them.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And it's almost like you've got to try and quickly remember before it disappears. And I think, I've just had a dream. What was the dream? And then I'll remember a bit of it, and then I can trace it back. But if I go back to sleep and I wake up again, I won't remember that. I think, oh, I had a dream. What was it? And it's gone. So, but once I'm up and I know I'm up, I can remember the dream and trace it backwards almost. So yeah, bizarre. But I'm envious of these people who have lucid dreams and remember the details and the colours and all that. I think I'd love, people that I've sat with and they can really recount their dreams in the greatest of details. And then this happened, and then and I'm like, this never happens for me. Very rarely does that happen for me. But
I'm a major dreamer. And I mean, I can remember three dreams in a night sometimes, but I write them down because I do forget them. I mean, so I will go back and look at my dream journal and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that dream, first of all. And wow, that is just really crazy. Where did that come from? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite holiday or Sabbath?
I'm going to go with Samhain. It's kind of between Samhain and Yule, and they come together. I think Samhain has a very special energy. I've never claimed that I can talk to spirit or anything like that, and I don't practice mediumship. But I did have experiences when I was a child that I can't explain other than some sort of interaction or the veil becoming very, very thin. But there's a certain reverence at Samhain, and I love it. I love getting home. I light all the candles in here. I used to pull postcards from spirit, from Colette Byron Reed, see if there was a message. And I really get a sense of that time where the veil is thin. I do feel very much like there's energies around me. And I think it's a wonderful night, and it's a wonderful time of the year. I like doing rituals as well around there. And I love Yule. I'm a huge Christmas person. That's one of the things from my Christian background that I was very fond of was Christmas time. But the energy of Christmas, not necessarily a religious association with it, just that, I don't know, people just seem to be nicer. People just seem to have smiles on their face. Yes, it's very commercial, but Yule and Christmas time, I just think, for me, it's the jewel in the middle of winter. Winter can be quite bleak, and as I said earlier, I really struggle with January and February.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, once Christmas is gone, New Year's out the way. New Year brings a sadness to me. I don't know why. I've always felt that. New Year, just this real sadness to it. But then you just think of January and February as long winter months, and they're our toughest months, I think, in this country. It's when we get the most snow or rain and dark days and everything like that. So yeah, but there's always that excitement from Samhain coming towards Yule. There's just a nice atmosphere. There's a nice energy, and I like to soak it up. I'm really big on that time of the year, as anybody that watches my channel will know, with the things I do around Yule and Samhain.
Mm-hmm. So, do you work with crystals? If so, what are your favorites?
My favorites.
I bet you I know what your favorite is. Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I've got a rough piece that was sent to me by a subscriber a couple of years ago, but I love it. It's such a powerful stone. You do have to handle with caution. It is a stone that can be quite toxic. It has to be used appropriately, but it's a stone for me that really amplifies positive energies and vibrations, and at the same time soaks up lots of negativity. I've read about people who live very close to nuclear plants or where there's natural radiation plants and things like that, and they'll have lots of malachite and things in their home. But this is
really, I've never heard that before.
That
is stunning. Oh my gosh, that is just stunning.
So this is my malachite bowl, which is I just love, and then I've just got some really beautiful pieces of malachite that I collect. I've also got, you know, things that have been sent to me, like a little malachite duck, because the whole A Up Me Duck sent by Jesse. And I've got malachite elephants. This is one that's got chrysocolla in with it. But I've just got so many pieces, and I keep them all in this malachite bowl. This was my first ever piece of malachite, and I just loved the shape of it. It reminded me of like Darth Vader's helmet. And it's got little bits of, again, chrysocolla in with it, but it's a gorgeous piece. So yeah, I just think it's great to work with chakras because it aligns all the chakras. It's a really versatile healing stone as well. You know, it can be used for so many things. Great for putting on the third eye to enhance, you know, the opening of the third eye and things like that. So yeah, malachite, I love it.
I've never heard that about malachite though, about like the radiation and stuff.
Yeah, it's yeah, and look it up. You know, there's lots of accounts of people that you know, if they live near nuclear power plants or where there's natural radiation and things like that, they have it in their home to protect themselves, and they'll have huge pieces because it's a stone that's well known for, you know, not only soaking in negativity and toxins, but it amplifies you know, lots of positive energies as well. So yeah, I love it. And it gets overlooked because people often say, oh, malachite, you have to be really careful with malachite. And you do, you know. If afterwards, I'll wash my hands because I've handled this raw piece of it. But for tumbled stones, you know, unless you're going to put them in your mouth or whatever, and I wouldn't use it for putting in a glass of water and drinking. I wouldn't use malachite necessarily for that. But in terms of healing, it's a wonderful stone, and I just think it's beautiful. I just love the two tones of green, you know, the dark green and the light green together. And if you get pieces that have chrysocolla mixed in with it as well, it's stunning.
So lush. It's lush. Yeah.
It is.
It makes me think of, and that's why I brought it up, you know, like shungite, right? Because shungite is supposed to be for helping to like block like electromagnetic waves and stuff like that. And radiation is very similar to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you hear all this stuff about shungite or like organite, like so.
Yeah.
And you think malachite can do the same thing too. I would think it can maybe do the same thing too.
And we find that a lot of crystals, don't we? You know, they've all got their individual properties, but so many crystals can be used for similar things. You know, so it's, again, I suppose for me, it's the aesthetic of it because it looks so beautiful and I'm drawn to that color and the beauty of it. But once I realized how versatile it was as a stone, particularly for healing, you know, to be able to align all the chakras, then it's wonderful for that. And people will just not think about using, you know, around the heart chakra with its color. It's so much more. It's so much more than that. Yeah.
I need to get me some malachite.
Yes. Dig up the malachite.
Exactly. So do you have a special skill or hobby that you would like to tell us about?
Special skill? No, I don't think so. I don't think I've got any, unless anybody in chat knows of any that I've talked about. Or in terms of hobbies, I'm a huge film buff. I love movies, but I love being outside. I love walking. I love nature. I love going around mind, body, spirit fairs and metaphysical shops. I'm in my element in them. I put a lot of my spare time and hobby into my channel and doing things there and connecting with the community. But in terms of any sort, we've all got talents, all of us, you know, whatever that might be. But in terms of being creative, I'm
Did you see the can you just put?
What did she
She
put?
says he has a skill for tolerating the toilet bowl under.
There you are, you see. That will be my lasting legacy, I think. Simon who hangs his
You have
toilet roll the
a
wrong way.
skill for bringing people together. Seriously.
Yeah. And that, that was the whole point of me starting my channel, was because, as I said, I was somebody who found themselves on the outside, always feeling like I never fit in. So if I used to go to even Buddhist groups, I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like the odd person. And I think sometimes in social situations, I can be quite socially awkward. So, big parties and things like that, I would always be in the corner, talking to one or maybe two people.
Mm-hmm.
And even though in my professional life, I have to stand up in front of people and talk and train and everything else, I'm very much an introvert in that way. And I always felt that I never found a place where I truly belonged, even though I could grasp the spiritual element and bring it into my home and practice it. So when I found this online community and I was part of it in the chats, the overriding desire wasn't to, profess to be anything, an expert in anything or anything like that. That's not what I'm about. It was to be a part of a community that could come from all four corners of the world. And I believe that it's easier to find people through mediums like this than it is just because you happen to live in a geographical location and there's a group being put on by somebody and there's 20 people going to be there. You're going to go along and the chances are you're not going to find your people. But now we've got this amazing technology where we can press a button and connect on a platform, and other people, can find you and choose in that instant. Yeah, I feel I connect with this person or I don't, and either way's fine. But those that do stick around and you get to know people, you recognize them, they're chatting, they're saying hello. And then I get so many emails, personal messages, and whether it's on Instagram, Facebook Messenger, wherever, I get so much from people saying, I've walked a similar path. Or when you said this, it really resonated. And thank you for talking about mental health, or thank you about talking about your experience with religion, your sexuality, whatever it is. They find a connection, and that's what it was about. It was about, I don't feel I belong. I can't find in my physical environment a place where I feel completely comfortable. And this is as close, I think, as I'm going to get to that, in terms of here are people that I feel I connect with. And it doesn't matter that you might be 5,000 miles away, because we're not. We're talking instantly in the same time. And distance is kind of irrelevant now. We can still, I feel that I've got some brilliant friends that I've never met. How could we have said that 20, 30 years ago? I've got some brilliant friends. I've never met them. You would have been laughed at. But now we've got the ability to be able to do that. And if you do get to meet them, you're fortunate enough to get to meet them, then the ice is already broken, and you've already got that bond and that connection. So it's wonderful. So yeah, that's my whole intention really for setting my channel was to just, put myself out there and hopefully attract like-minded people so we can share a spiritual experience and journey together.
Right on. I'd say that is a major skill that you have. Do you currently have a favorite book or artist?
Well, I can combine the two really, and they're here because I've been reading. But I'm really loving Pamela Coleman Smith at the moment because I did the Tarathon section, I opened Tarathon talking about Pamela Coleman Smith, and I'd read The Untold Story. And then Sandra in our community, Whispering Well, bought me, as a thank you for doing that, The Pious Pixie. So I'm reading that currently. And she's most famous, of course, for the RWS Tarot, but her other work that was probably the second most famous was a book that she did when she was very young called The Anansi Stories, and I was able to get that. But this is packed full of her artwork as well, almost on every page. They're only black and white illustrations, but this is where I'm up to at the moment. It's just, I just love her artwork. So in terms of artist, I'm really enjoying her, and I'm enjoying reading her books. My all-time favorite book ever is a book that I read 20 years ago, and it's called The Alchemist, and it's by Paulo Coelho. I read that, and it literally changed my life. It really did. The core message of, it doesn't matter where you go, how far you travel to try and find something. In this case, it was buried treasure. It's with you. Don't seek it anywhere else. Seek it within, you know. And the protagonist in this story had a dream that he had to go and find some buried treasure, and went across Spain, Africa, into Egypt, only to find that the buried treasure was under where he slept and had the dream way back at home years before. And it just, this is the 25th anniversary edition, and there's another one I'm going to get, which is a luxurious edition that's just been done with beautiful illustrations. So that's my favorite book. I absolutely love it, and I've read it multiple times. And then also I'm a huge fan of Deepak Chopra, and this is Buddha, which is written as a novel. So it's not an historical account, but it is. But because, you know, there's nothing written really around the time, everything that the Buddha taught was spoken. It's the story of Buddha from child right until death, but it is written in such a way, as a story, as a novel, that it's just really delightful. It's such a great way to read about the life of the Buddha, and you don't have to be Buddhist. You know, it's Deepak Chopra. It's a spiritual book, but I absolutely love that as well. So that's my two favorite books: Deepak Chopra's Buddha and The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. But I'm really enjoying reading autobiographies about the life of Pamela Coleman Smith, because she was incredible, absolutely incredible. Her talent and the things she did, and the oppression she had to fight against as a woman back then, you know, she's just, yeah, and having a legacy that she never really got to know, you know. She died a pauper, buried in a pauper's grave, owing debts, you know, that were huge at those times, and not knowing that her work would be revered so much around the world now. It's heartbreaking, but
yeah,
thank goodness.
It's like I got to get a few more books. You are such an enabler, you know.
Sorry.
No, I'm just joking. It's all good. Sorry.
That's all right.
So do you have a favorite TV series that you're watching right now?
Favorite TV
I'm gonna
series?
mute myself.
Yeah. There's a few. I enjoyed Ozark on Netflix. I thought that was really good. I enjoyed watching that. I like comedy. I'm rewatching all of Golden Girls. It started as a lockdown project. I was like, okay. So I watched Schitt's Creek. That was good. I'd watched Ozark. I'd watched Tiger King. And then I've been watching, I'm up to season 3 now of Golden Girls. And it started when I got the Golden Girls Tarot. I'm like, I haven't watched it for years. I've got the box sets. I'll dig them out. I love Coronation Street. For those people in the UK, you know, it's been going for nearly 60 years. I love it. I've watched it my entire life. It's just part of life. So I love to watch that. And then I think my ultimate favourite programme is Wentworth, which is an Australian show. It's a prison series, but it is gripping. It is so well written. It is so well acted. And the new season is starting in a few weeks, and I can't wait. So, The Crown. I love The Crown as well on Netflix.
I love that one, The Crown. I love Ozark. My husband, we watched that one. That is so good.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones, I haven't watched The Tiger King. I know other people have talked about it, but I mean, you hear some that it's like highly addictive, and then you have, that was such a waste of my time. So I'm like, should we? I don't know.
Yeah, you feel a bit of a voyeur watching it, and it is a little bit like. But I watched it thinking, is this real? Do people actually live like this and think that it's okay? And but it's addictive viewing, and you do kind of feel a bit watching it, but it's one of them you think, well, I just need to see it through to the end. I need to see how this is all going to play out. So,
and is it worth it to see it all the way to the end?
I don't think you're going to miss anything if you don't watch it. But I think if you start to watch it, it does drag you in, and you kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna see this through. Because you do kind of, it is so unbelievable the things that you're hearing and watching. You think, I've got to keep watching this.
I've heard some people refer to it as like a train wreck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or those things you can't kind of look away from.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, I can't get that time back now.
Yeah, exactly. And you can pretty much watch it in a day if you wanted to. I think it's 7 episodes. So with Netflix, they take out commercials and things. So
that's not too bad.
Yeah.
My sister watches Coronation Street religiously and has for years. I've not seen that one. I don't know about that one.
It's our longest running program. It's in December of this year. It will be on. It's been on TV for 60 years. So,
wow.
Yeah. And it's on, well, not currently because of lockdown. So they've had to, they film like 4 months in advance. So because of lockdown, they dropped it down to 3 times a week instead of 6 times a week. But pretty much when I was a kid, it was on twice a week. Then it went to like 3 times a week. Now it's 6 times a week. Because of programs like Neighbours and Home and Away, they were banging them out every day. And people were like, why aren't we doing this with ours? And people call them soaps, but it's a serial drama. And it's got a good balance of humour as well as serious things. So they tackle some really important topics of the day, but at the same time, there's a good balance of humour and lightheartedness in there, as opposed to like EastEnders, which is always kind of heavy and a little bit depressing. So I like it.
Okay, that makes sense. A soap opera. We have some of those here, like Guiding Light and oh my gosh, I don't even remember all of them. It's been years since the Young and the Restless. I think that's been on for like 70 years or something, 60 years, something like that. Yeah. And when you're doing it, you can get highly addicted to watching those. I remember coming home every day from school and watching them because my grandma watched them, my mom watched them, but I got out of that years and years ago.
You see, I always thought back in the 80s, your soap operas were big glitzy, like Dallas and Dynasty and Falcon Crest. And we used to get all them. And we used to be like, why are American soaps like really lavish and extravagant? And we've got a little back street in Manchester for Coronation Street with a corner pub and a little shop, and gossiping on the corners. It was just 2 completely different worlds. And then I started hearing, I think it was watching Friends, like the character Joey was in a soap opera. I think it was it As the World Turns or something like that?
As the World Turns, that's another one, yes.
Yeah.
I think the distinction though is one is a daytime soap opera and the other ones were like prime time shows that were like series that would be on like once a week, like Dallas, Knots Landing, Dynasty. Those were like once a week shows, where the other ones were like every single day, like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, ours are always the evening, so ours are prime time. 7:30 is usually our slot for Coronation Street. So,
Gotcha. Sounds interesting. So do you have a favorite witch movie or series that you've watched or watch?
No, I mean, I liked what's the one with Sandra Bullock and
Practical Magic.
Sorry?
Practical Magic.
Practical Magic. Yeah, I really loved that. I thought that was a brilliant film. I read the book as well, or 2 books. I read the books. But yeah, Nicole Kidman, that was the other person. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I loved Hocus Pocus because I'm a huge Bette Midler fan. Love all of her films. But yeah, and there was not many people remember it. I know Sandra from The Whispering Well remembers it because we chatted about it. But there was a show when I was 5 or 6, and it was one of the first things I remember on TV. And there was a series called Lizzie Drippin. And she was a little girl who had an imaginary friend, and the imaginary friend was a witch. And I can just remember being really fascinated with that, you know, a proper witch with a pointy hat and broomstick. It was a kids program, but it was brilliant. So I love that, and that's the first time I ever kind of even knew the concept of witch, because of course in my family it's not anything that's really would have been anything really to be discussed. But yeah, apart from that, in terms of series, I never watched. I was told to watch it by Kelly. They just made a remake of it, which was on Netflix quite recently. It was out years ago. Sorry?
Was it Sabrina?
Sabrina, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some of the old ones, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but I've not seen it since it's come back. But it is on my kind of list to get round to watching.
That's a good one to watch. It's fun. And definitely it seemed like a lot different than the first one. I mean, granted, the other one was on regular TV during the day, well, in the evenings back in the day. And this one, I mean, it's definitely more, I would say, adult themed versus
I heard that.
Kind of thing. Even though they're teenagers, it's still more adult, I would say.
Yeah. But our teenagers are growing up faster, aren't they?
Exactly. So do you prefer coffee or tea?
Coffee. I'm a huge coffee person. This year I made a pact on the 1st of January that I would switch to decaf, because I was drinking a ton of the stuff and it was starting to have an effect. And I came off coffee on the 1st of January. First couple of weeks, headaches and everything, and then I've been fine, and I've been on decaf ever since. I've had the odd one if I'm out and about, and I'll have a mocha or cappuccino or something like that. But I drink a lot. I drink like 6-7 mugs of coffee a day, so it made sense to go onto decaf. I do like some flavored teas. I don't drink many regular black teas much now, but some buttermint or things like that, or sour cherry I might have as a tea. But as a rule, I'm a big coffee drinker.
I still haven't tried the buttermint. I really want to try that though. It sounds so good. Oh my God.
I think we worked out it was called something different in the States. If Jill is in the chat still from Little Zone Crow, she bought some. You don't call it buttermint, but it's the same thing. I can't remember what you guys call it now over there. Might be something like vanilla and mint or something, or I can't remember, but it might pop up.
Got noises all around, sorry. So is there a time period besides right now that you feel drawn to?
I used to say that I was born 20 years too late, because I wanted to live through the hippie kind of time of the late 60s. I wanted to be old enough, because every time I watch programs about Woodstock, or, you know, and some of my friends used to call me a hippie. And I think they kind of meant it, you know, as a bit taking the mick, but I was actually quite flattered because I like the idea of that. And then other than that, I would have liked to have been around the time again, like when Pamela Coleman-Smith was around, when it was very that bohemian scene. I like to be around people who don't necessarily conform to what society expects, the people that live kind of on the fringes, do their own thing, irrespective of other people's judgments. I'm always drawn to those types of people. I don't think I want to go back any further than that, because you just look back in history, particularly in our country. You know, we've got some horrible histories. Even this city I live in, it's built on 800 caves. So there's 800 caves below where I live, and some are privately owned because they're under people's homes and things like that. But there's a lot of caves you can go down, and just going back 150 years and seeing how people lived, I just don't think I would be cut out for that at all, you know. So I would like to have lived around the turn of the previous century into the 1900s, because of the whole sort of bohemian scene in London. And then probably, you know, born 20 years before I was, perhaps in the 1950s, so that I was old enough to recognise that new sort of age of rock and roll, and then into the hippie scene, flower power and all that.
I was going to say the flower child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. If you could have a deep conversation with anyone during any time in history, who would it be and why?
Oh, deep conversation with anyone in history. I'm going to be really predictable, and everybody's going to know that I'm going to say it, but I think it would be Pixie.
Oh.
I want to hear about her life. I feel by reading her autobiographies that she's such a familiar person to me. And when I first saw the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, the images were really familiar, which I've never been able to get past that. Not just the Five of Pentacles, but the other images. I was like, these are so familiar to me. And I've heard people talk about, well, you know, collective consciousness, and these are archetypes taken from collective consciousness, so therefore we're bound to have an affinity with them and a recognize them. I don't know, but I'd love to sit and chat to her. I would love to know why she converted to Catholicism when she did, you know, and just hear about her life. You know, there's rumors that she was biracial. There's rumors that she was, you know, a lesbian. Nothing is confirmed. There's no fact to back up either of those. So I'd love to explore that with her. But then there's some really inspirational people as well. You know, Martin Luther King. There's loads of people that have lived. Gandhi. And then I've always been a fan of Madonna. They always say don't meet your heroes, don't they? Because you might be disappointed. And I always felt that with Madonna I would be. But she's somebody I've seen 3 times live. I've liked her since I was 14 years of age. I think she's, despite the fact she's controversial, that's just because she pushes people's buttons and she challenges the norm. But I think she's done so much for women, particularly in the music industry. Her speech, if you go on YouTube and look it up, she gave a speech when she received an award where she was saying, you know, Prince was running up and down on stage in his underwear. You know, people were pushing buttons left, right, and centre if they were male. You know, I did a book about sex and I was vilified, you know, and she was just, you know, the words that was used to describe her in the late 80s. But she came through all that, you know, she became the top of her game. And she did so much for gay rights. She did so much for women, you know, pushing people forward. And she was just, I just think she's quite, not only is she iconic, she's an inspiration as well. So it's quite a few people. I'd like to have a dinner party and have all these people around the table.
That would be friggin' awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It would be an eventful evening.
Yeah. Tammy
Oprah Winfrey. I just think she's incredible. There was a rumor about 3 or 4 years ago after your last election that she was going to stand or run for presidency. And I just thought, well, why not? You know, if Donald Trump can become prime minister, if Donald Trump can become president, why not? You know, why not Oprah Winfrey? Ronald Reagan as an actor did it. People laughed when he put himself forward. Arnold Schwarzenegger as a senator, you know, so why not Oprah? How amazing I think she would be. Her life is incredible. The films, you know, she can pick and choose roles that she wants to play. And her part in The Colour Purple, which is an amazing film, Beloved, it's just, she's just a wonderful person. And I used to love getting her show. And it was cancelled here years ago, even before she ended the Oprah show. But yeah, back in the early 90s, I used to watch her, and incredible.
I went to one of her shows.
You went?
To one of her shows back in the day. My husband and I did.
Wow.
My husband used to be a window washer downtown Chicago. So, yeah. And that's where she shot, was in Chicago.
It's a shame you weren't in the audience where she gave everybody a car.
You're not kidding. You get a car. You get a car. Okay.
Oh, dear.
But we got to meet her. When it ended, you got to go up and shake her hand and talk to her for a minute and then go on your way. Yeah, she is really tall. Yeah.
Is she?
I think she's like 6'2". Yeah.
Wow.
Well, probably because she had really tall shoes on too, though. And her hair at the time was like really tall.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. And probably because, I mean, she's like a star. So you're looking at her, you're like, whoa, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas like Madonna, she's 5'2". So she's really diddy. And you just think, wow, because she's somebody who, you know, is, like I say, really iconic and on stage, and she just kind of commands the stage when she's performing. And then I remember seeing her live and getting the first one we went to was pretty close to the front, and just seeing the dancers around her, and I was thinking, she's tiny, you know, but yeah.
I had to show that. Tammy Pie said, I love Madonna. She's my spirit animal. Yeah. Too funny. So, do you have a website?
Yes. So my website is the Hermit's Cave. .co.uk. I was going to say .com, but it's not .com. Yeah, the hermitscave.co.uk is the website. So it has a little bit about me. It's got a bio on there. Talks about my history with the cards, and then you can get readings.
Okay, I think we're back.
Oh, did we lose?
Okay, I did for a second. I'm not sure if you guys lost it too. All right.
Okay.
But I do have your website down below in the description for anyone to go and check it out, as well as your Instagram and your Facebook group.
Wonderful.
Your channel, of course.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's where you do readings from. Somebody can book a reading from you off of your website. Is that right?
I kind of closed the shop temporarily for a bit, just because of things that I'd got happening and stuff like that. So, and then I was going to just do readings for decks rather than, you know, because all I was doing really was somebody would book a reading, I would do the reading, I'd record it, I would send a private link so they've got their link, they can keep it forever, it never gets taken down. But then any money I got, I'd go and buy decks. And I was thinking, you know, and then things got really, really busy. So I closed the shop and I was thinking, well, if I do this, I might just do it for a deck, you know. Somebody wants to buy me a deck, great.
That's brilliant.
exchange it. I'll exchange it for a reading, you know. Because yeah, just like with my channel, this is not me knocking anybody who does. I'm big up for it. But you know, for me, as I said, the reason why I started my channel was for the reasons I've mentioned. I've never monetized, you know. I got the option to do that when I got to 1,000 subscribers. Never switched it on, never switched on Super Chat, because for me, I get paid well with the job that I do. I'm very fortunate. I've got a great job that I love. And it's enough, you know. I'm not somebody that ever aspires to be rich and famous or anything like that. As long as I've got enough to live on and get by, I'm happy. So for me, doing readings was to progress as a reader. But I'm happy to do it for an exchange of a deck. You know, it's not about making money. So
yeah. And that could work out perfectly because of the problems, like you said, of how more expensive it could be for you to get a deck that's coming from America, right?
exactly. Yeah.
That could really work out. Yeah. And I would definitely do readings for decks. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all I was doing anyway.
Right. Yeah. So how long have you been on YouTube?
Just coming up to 3.5 years. So that's as a content creator. So 4 years exactly as, you know, finding the community and being part of the community. But yeah, it was the beginning of 2017 when I started my channel. So coming up to 3.5 years.
And what is the direction that you envision for your channel going forward? Any changes or?
I like to keep doing series. So I started off, you know, doing kind of tags and unboxings and things like that. And then I started doing the lives. When I started doing Cuppa Catch Up in Cards on a Saturday, there was only, I think, Kelly at The Truth and Story doing lives. That was it. Now, you know, finding a slot to go live sometimes, it can be difficult. So I started with a Cuppa Catch Up series, and then 2.5 years ago, I started the Catching Up With series, which is doing the interviews with people, which I really enjoy doing. Getting to know other people and introducing other people to people who might not know. You know, I did Will on Saturday, and there's loads of people left messages saying, didn't know about this channel, you know, and Will's been around the same year as me. So we always assume, don't we, that if you've been around a certain amount, everybody knows everyone. And that's not always the case unless you introduce people. So I enjoy doing that. And then I started doing Throwback Thursday, coming up to a year ago. That's going to end next month. So I'm looking at what else I can do now as a series. I like to kind of do them for a period of time. Tarathon is something that I introduced 2 years ago. So we've just had our 3rd year of that. So there's always different projects and different series and things that I like to do. But I think it is time to mix it up a bit. So now that Throwback Thursday is coming to an end, I'm going to have a few thoughts about what to do next, because I think it's good to keep it fresh and keep doing things. You know, I paused doing Catching Up With for 3 or 4 months at the beginning of this year because of the situation with the coronavirus. So instead I did quarantine streams because there were so many people who were stuck at home on their own, myself included. I was fortunate in that I could work from home, but I was still inside 4 walls for days and days on end. So I did quarantine stream where we could just connect once a day for up to an hour and, you know, discuss a theme or just check in with each other. How are we doing? How are we coping? You know, and for a lot of people, that was a lifeline. And people were saying, you know, you're the only people I've spoken to today, you know. So, and we did 44 of them. And that ended a couple of weeks ago when I had to go back to work, physically go back to work. So yeah, it's just thinking of things to keep, but with the whole intention about building community. That's what Tarathon's about. That's what the Catching Up series is about. That's why I do channel shout outs, because it's not just about you, it's about how you fit into that whole, you know, and what part you play and how you can, you know, introduce people, connect people up.
Absolutely. And you have done that. You have been a huge inspiration for me and doing the interviews with people. Just being able to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like doing it in order to help other channels also. But for me, it's selfish because I like, just like right now, being able to just sit and talk with somebody I probably never would have been able to in real life. Well, this is real life, but I mean, you know, outside of the internet, because you're in a different country across
Yeah.
a huge ocean, you know, and like-minded people being able to, it's just the best thing ever. So thank you. You inspired me to do that. So thank you. I appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. You're welcome.
And so, I mean, you pretty much answered this, but what do you wish to gain from your channel going forward?
Ultimately, I think what I wish to gain is to make some real connections and to make a difference somewhere. Doesn't have to be huge, but just to make a difference to somebody, you know, that may have been in a situation where I was, where somebody might think that life isn't worth living, you know, or, you know, they feel so isolated, or they feel that they don't have a voice, or they can't contribute, or, you know, I want to change that. I want people to feel as much as you can, because I'm very conscious of the fact that this is an open platform. YouTube needs to change really in terms of privacy and things like that, more in line with like Facebook. You know, if someone's being a total shit on Facebook, you can just block them. You block them and they're gone. You can't do that on YouTube. Yes, you can hide them, but they're still there. They're still watching and they're still seeing the interactions and people sharing of themselves. So as much as I like to think it's a safe space, it's not entirely a safe space, but as much as possible, I just want, my hope for the channel, as I said, it was always to build community, but I want us to just feel like it's a safe harbor in a storm. Whatever you're going through in life, to be able just to make those connections and realize you're not the only one who thinks like you think or feel like you feel, that there are other people out there that's walked the same paths, have experienced the same things, and we can just share and talk and lift each other up. And if tarot is the medium that we can, you know, we can pick up a deck and we can share our experiences. We're not always going to agree on things, but it's the thing that unifies, you know, because most people who perhaps watch you and watch me have come to us because they've searched somewhere along the line about tarot or divination, or about paganism and witchy paths or whatever. I know those that come into my regular chats, you know, are from all different faiths. You know, there's people in there that I know that are Roman Catholic or Christian, or, you know, Hindu, Muslim. I even know a friend of mine who I've actually met from the community who's Sikh, you know, but it doesn't matter, because we found a common goal, a common interest, I should say, that that connects us together. And irrespective of differences, we put them aside and we focus on similarities instead of the differences. So my hope for the channel going forward is that continues, that builds, and that, you know, people will have differences, but ultimately they'll have respect for each other for where they are, and will continue to move forward together.
I think
Sounds
I'm
very
having
idealistic.
internet issues.
All right.
It's going off. Did you guys see it I'll go black again. Or is it just me? Please.
I'm looking here, and you seem okay.
Okay. If you're seeing a face like, uh-oh, you know what's happening. Oh, I flashed. Okay. Just for a second. All right.
Oh, good.
So this is normally the part where I ask if it's okay if I open it up for people to ask you questions. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Let them have it, guys.
Let him have it. Suck it to me.
That's
I like that. Aries says difference is beautiful. And absolutely, difference is beautiful. We should embrace difference and not be fearful of it.
So true. Channel and menopause. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Stray Cat. That's a nice comment as well.
I wrote a song for Simon and gave it to him last year. It's perfect for him. Simon by the Sea.
Oh, this is Tanji.
That's
yeah.
Tanji.
She wrote it and sang it and sent it to me as a sound file. And because, I've got that, as I said, that love of the sea. And I remember talking about a dream that I had that one day, if I was to retire, I'd love to retire by the sea with my cards, giving readings for people with a cup of tea or a coffee. And she wrote this song called Simon by the Sea. And it was sung so beautifully as well. It was really nice. So thank you, Tanji, for doing that.
Well, she actually wants to know if you will come onto her channel and sing it live with her.
I can't sing. I'm a terrible singer. But you should sing it, Tanji. You should sing it and release it as a video.
There you go. Leanne wanted to know what your sun sign was. She came in a little bit later.
Okay. So I'm a Libra, Leanne.
So Maria, Lady Knight of Avalon, says, Simon, I think you might be able to find water in your chart by looking at the Arabian points.
Okay.
Interesting.
Help.
Yeah, I don't know what the Arabian points are either. Essence says, Simon, when I come to the UK, can I shop your shelf like it's a store? And are you still insisting I dust the shelves? LOL. Just joking.
Yeah, she's Essence Neem. She said, if I come, I'm gonna raid all your shelves. And I said, yeah, well, they need a good clean. If you want to come and have a go, take everything off my shelves, be my guest.
So Dawn says, how has practicing Buddhism enhanced your magical practice?
Oh.
Yeah.
In as much as the main drive of my Buddhist practice, as I said, is around cause and effect. So everything that we put out, we need to realize that it has a reaction, So, and that reaction comes back to us. There are some Buddhist schools that will teach that comes back tenfold. I don't necessarily buy into that, but I do believe for every action there is a reaction. So in terms of my magical practice, if I'm doing intention setting, or if I'm casting a spell, a ritual, I am mindful that whatever I put out will come back as well, so not that I've ever and never would, send something out. I might, and I have done spells to bind someone who might be harmful or something like that as a protection, but I'm mindful as well that doesn't cross a line where it could harm. I'm not about causing harm to anybody, but sometimes you have to protect yourself with ritual. But so my Buddhist practice helps me to know that there will be a reaction because it's an intention I'm putting out there, and I need to be prepared that will come back as well.
Right. So Stray Cat says, Simon, have you ever done a video talking about books, resources to begin studying Buddhism?
I have. way back. Might be time to do a refresher. I did recently in a quarantine stream. I did books, but they were about tarot books. But yes, I don't know if it was part of a cup of ketchup and cards, but I remember talking about my favorite Buddhist books for beginners. So I mentioned a book called The Buddha in Your Mirror, which was the first book I read, which was amazing. And it talks about, you know, the Buddha is within and how you manifest the Buddha in your daily practice. And then the second one was a novel, which was called The Buddha, Jeff and Me, which was about just a guy who used to go down to the pub every night, and he met a guy in there called Jeff, who was a Buddhist, and they just started over a few beers just having an exchange about Buddhism. And it was brilliantly written. Again, I like to read novels like Deepak Chopra's book sometimes, rather than heavy kind of academic studies. I really struggle with those types of books. So as long as it conveys the message and the spirit of the teaching of Buddhism, then I'm all for that. So those two books I would recommend: The Buddha in Your Mirror and The Buddha, Jeff and Me, both on Amazon as well, and they're really good reads.
Stray Cat also asks, do you frisk guests, if I can talk right, do you frisk guests when they leave after a visit?
No, fully trust them. And you know, I love it. I've had lots of people from the tarot community here: Kelly Bear, Sandra, Becca, Dan from Pound of Vale, Al. Loads of people have been here and stayed, and they always say, can I go and have a look at your deck? So I'm like, please, you know, absolutely, have a rummage, get them out, play with them. I'm not one of these. It's like, don't touch my decks, you know, because even the decks that I have out that I work with, I would cleanse anyway, you know, and I do every so often. So if they're there, you know, have a look. But I don't. There's that trust. Nobody would do that. I just know it, you know. So, and I know it's meant tongue in cheek anyway, but
I remember watching a video of Becca coming over, and you were, I think, in the bathroom or something, and everyone's like egging her on, like, yeah, you got to switch them around. And you walked right in and you noticed that they were mixed around. I was laughing so hard. So you know where everything is pretty much, right?
Pretty much. Had she gone to the ones at the back, I probably wouldn't have noticed. And the look on her face, I'd gone to the fish and chip shop to get us some fish and chips. And when I came in, she was sat here and she was like, hello. And she looked really sort of guilty. And I'm like, hello. And then I thought, she's done something. And I just looked, and she'd moved some that were right in the foreground. So I could see straight away. I was like, you've moved my decks around.
I felt sorry for her because it felt like she really didn't want to do it, but everyone was like telling her, do it, do it, do it. So she was like doing it. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Maria says, I can calculate the Arabian points if you are interested. There are points like mother, father, spirituality, job, love, etc.
Oh, okay.
That's Lady Knight of Avalon.
Lady Knight of Avalon. Okay. Make a note of that. Brilliant.
So Leanne asks, are you in love? If yes, do they love you back?
No, not with, I mean, I'm in love with life, and I'm in love with people generally, but I'm not in a relationship, and I haven't been for quite some time now. But again, that's a conscious decision. I'm not closed down to the thought of it, but one is confidence, because I said I'm painfully shy, particularly in situations like that. I would never use apps. Not that I judge anybody that does, but the ones I looked at once were just terrible, and the messages that were sent, I was like, oh no, you know. And I think I've had to come to the point, like I said, with how I felt about the Lover's card relating as my life path card, that I've really had to work on the relationship with myself first, to be able to get to the point where I would be confident or comfortable with somebody else. And coupled with the fact that I am a hermit and I'm a homebod and I love my own space, it's going to take someone really special for me to even contemplate, sharing my life with somebody and my space with somebody. And as I say, I'm not close to the idea, the thought, but I'm not actively seeking it out either. If people come into my life, and it will only happen by a chance meeting, then yeah, we'll see where it goes. But do you know what? I don't feel I'm missing out on anything. I feel like my life is pretty good. It's pretty full. I've got some amazing friends, great job. I'm very busy. So if it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, I'm okay with that too.
Right on. So Trish asks, how long did you study the tarot before you read for others?
It's really difficult to answer that one because I studied the tarot when I was 16. I put it aside, and then I was, really into church again and everything like that. And then, as I said, I worked with soul cards. So they're not tarot, but it was divination and it was reading for people. And then I used to do the psychic parties. So I used to go to people's houses where there'd be like 5 or 6. I'd set up in a room and I'd provide readings and things like that. And then, as I said, I moved into Rider-Waite-Smith 12 years ago and only started doing readings January of last year, 18 months ago. So quite a few years, really. But I can't say I've had experience of tarot for over 30 years, but it hasn't been consistent because I've read with other cards and other tools and systems in that time. But it's only the last 18 months that I've been doing professional readings.
So Thais asks, Simon, if you could do a tarot reading for anyone in the world, who would it be? Good question.
It is a good question. If I could do a tarot reading for anybody in the world, dead or alive?
Yeah, I'd say dead or alive.
Princess Diana.
Oh, yes.
I'd love.
Yeah.
And I think she was very open to it as well. There is a psychic, famous psychic here. She has TV shows. She travels the country. My sister follows her everywhere, called Sally Morgan. And Princess Diana it's well documented, had contacted her a couple of times asking about what do you see in my future. And, when she was really in the marriage that was hard, she'd contacted Sally Morgan and they'd had lots of communications. And yeah, she's just somebody who I just think, again, I always seem to be drawn to people who, you might look at her and think, well, she had it all, but she really didn't. She was 19. She was a lamb to the slaughter, really. She wasn't prepared for that lifestyle. She wasn't prepared for somebody else being in the marriage. She was such a lonely figure. She idolized her boys. And then she tried to do good, with the landmines, with AIDS victims. She was the first person to actually touch somebody and say, it's okay, to do this. She was an inspirational figure. She wanted to be known as the Queen of Hearts, and I think she achieved that. But yeah, she is somebody I would like to probably do a tarot reading for.
Excellent. I think we are done with all the questions, and it's actually been over 2 hours. It goes really fast.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. Thank you so much, Simon. This has been wonderful. Really a dream come true for me. Guys, everyone that showed up, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, you know, I'm just sending you guys love and light. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend, especially with summer solstice being tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Rachele, for inviting me on. I've had a blast, and it's nice to be this side and, you know, get to experience what it's like to be in the hot seat. But I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the conversation, and those 2 hours have flown by. So
me too. You are very inspirational. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.